And now, weighing in out of the blue corner, Josh the Pug Thomson. 100%. And on the other mic, he weighs in from the red corner, Big John McCarthy.
Well, hello, and it's time for the Weighing In podcast, where we have no sound, no music, nothing happening. Everything's falling apart.
We have no podcast, Dave. What?
It doesn't matter because we're here, Josh. We're here. We're happy. We're ready to go.
Jeez.
My man, how you doing? Look, you even got that little neck warmer on.
Oh,
right
man.
now.
Man, it's a little cold in Texas right now. So
your little skinny ass is cold as hell, isn't it?
Skinny. Have you not seen me with my shirt off lately? I'm a little
Teletubby. Son of a bitch.
I'm like a Teletubby right now, brother. Come on, man. Jeez. Man, poor podcast day.
I'm never going to say you're a Teletubby, baby. You're in shape.
Oh,
you're my man.
I wish I was in shape. I wish. I could bounce back if I wanted to, but, I'm kind of enjoying this.
But why would you want to?
I'm enjoying this comfort life.
That's right.
Yeah. I've noticed that I don't get as cold at night. I've noticed that. That's one thing. You guys, you're gonna have to bear with us today, man. I know there's a lot of news that dropped and all this stuff, but podcast Dave had an emergency with his son.
He had some news drop too.
Yeah, so we're just trying to make sure that we can work around his schedule, and he's got some things going on with his son. So we're nothing serious, but we just want to make sure that
we are flying solo.
Yes.
We are flying solo. We have one engine is out and the other one is smoking like a sunbit.
Well, no, I think both the engines are running. You on one side, me on the other. But the back, what is that? The back prop thing is just
the rudder's doing this.
Yeah,
man.
the rudder's doing this. There you go. Yeah. Oh man. Well, okay. Look, there's so much for us to try to unravel and unfold. Obviously, with the purchase of Bellator and PFL merging together, or the acquisition of Bellator by
Let's just be honest.
PFL.
It's not a merging. Is it really a merging? I don't think it is.
I mean, you're merging the fighters and you're merging the fighters.
But it's an acquisition. One's got to be taking over the other.
Yeah. I mean, that's more of the PFL.
And it's the PFL taking over. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to unravel though. But do you guys want to get into the PFL first? Why am I asking you guys? It's not like you're going to.
What do you mean, you guys? There's one person listening right now.
Yeah, and I mean,
that's me.
I was thinking
I'm
our
barely
listeners,
doing that.
I was thinking our listeners, but then was I expecting a response? Like they were going to respond to us or something.
They're going to give you a cue.
Oh, I mean,
come on, man.
So look, Podcast Dave did a great job of doing the listening over Don Davis's interview with Ariel Helwani.
Semi-great job. Semi-great job. We're going to go over that.
Yeah, I'm gonna give Ariel some love, buddy. And I thought it was a great interview. I thought you pushed in some areas to try to get some information out, and you did. You let it slide on some areas just because there was no answer. I thought it was a good interview. Outside of that, I think there's a lot of things to kind of unravel and unfold. So it says right here. So Dave, some of the first things: finances, no money exchange, Paramount part owner in PFL. And then Dave has questions. Pretty much is kind of what he's saying is: does that diminish the value of Bellator? Because look, I think where the people are going with this, and I saw this a couple times today, was first it was supposed to be like $500 million for Bellator. And then it was going to be, I had heard around 220, 215, 215 million, 225 million, somewhere around there as well. And it just kind of seemed like it kept getting lower. Now we're just talking, basically it was just all stock.
Well, it was stock trade plus a minority ownership.
Yeah.
It comes down to this, Josh. It really, and this is what, let's just be honest about this. When knowing what we knew from the back end of Bellator is, you had a company in what was Viacom, Paramount. They didn't know what to do with Bellator because let's go back in time. When they bought Bellator, they had a guy named Kevin Kay working for him. And Kevin Kay was the guy who was in charge of Spike TV when The Ultimate Fighter was put on Spike TV. And that was when Lorenzo Fertitta was paying money, a lot of money, for the production of the show and for the time on Spike TV. Then you had the tough finale, and you had the Bonner versus Griffin, and all of a sudden, boom, they wanted to, have the UFC on Spike TV, and Kevin K was the guy who put that deal together, the famous deal in the back of the Cox Pavilion thing, right? And Kevin K has been a part of basically MMA ever since. When Kevin K, tried to keep the UFC on Spike TV, and the UFC moved, actually losing a little bit of money doing it, but moved to Fox because they looked at it like it was a bigger platform for their promotion. I don't blame them for doing it. Kevin K was kind of stuck there, and he had the rights to the UFC for a year. And you remember he kind of ran things against them. He counter-programmed them with big fights that, he could play what he wanted. But then he ended up, basically getting Viacom to purchase, a remaining share of Bellator and make them the owners of Bellator. And everything was great, and that's about the time you and I came over. Right. And then about a year and a half later, they let go of Kevin K.
Yeah. And
from that point, Bellator was lost within the entire structure of Paramount Plus,
CBS Sports,
the whole Viacom. Yeah. The whole Viacom family. And that's why Bellator moved around from being on Spike to being on CBS Sports, then Showtime again. And they didn't know what to do with it because they didn't have someone within the company of Paramount to really have an idea of what to do with it and where it should go and how to make it better.
Well, they don't normally own the properties and the sports properties that that are on their network. So they just didn't know how to, do I put this on CBS Sports and take up a time slot that I'm going to get paid to have pickleball on? You know what I mean? It's
pickleball.
Yeah. I mean, most of these, they're paying to be on their platform, or they're working out a deal with something for sponsors to pay them to have that product on there. But when you own that product, who's paying to have that product on that platform? You are. And
exactly. And that was this is weird. And they didn't have anybody that had the background to really take it over. And they kind of just put it on the back burner. They let it, they knew it was there. They got some content from it at times, but they didn't even want that content. And it just kind of floundered there. So you look and you say, when you have, it's kind of like having, when you're a kid with a toy or an adult with, a car or something like that. How much is that toy worth? How much is that car worth when you don't use it? And it just sits. Yeah. That's really what you had. It's just sitting there, and it's like, I really don't, I don't use it. I don't know what to do with it. So, I mean, to me, for them to basically let it go for stock, if that's what you want, hey, that's your business. Yeah. You know your business way better than I do, but I would say that's better than letting it flounder without you having an idea of what to do with it.
Yeah, I was torn because you believe in the product that you kind of felt like I came up with, even though I was with the Strikeforce, UFC, Strikeforce Dream Pride, all this, right? But I started kind of working into this career of being an analyst and developing more of a connection with the fighters. And that's a big deal because when you're a fighter, you really just care about the people in your weight class. And sure, you're friends with the other fighters. You guys meet up at, later in the lobby of the hotel bars, and you guys, will occasionally go get food together. That's kind of the extent of it. Camps kind of stay within their camps.
Sure.
I train with these guys. These are guys I hang out with when I go to a live event. It's no different than our production team, right? We get done and we all just kind of hang out. So I just felt like I was coming up with this generation of fighters. I don't know how many since the purchase happened. I mean, I've had so many fighters reach out to me like, man, I hope you stay with. I hope you and John both. They've all brought you up as well. They're like, I hope you and John for sure stay with. They're like, everyone from Patchy Mix to Johnny Eblin to everyone. I mean, there's so many, to Jason Jack, everyone's kind of reached out and been like, hey man, I hope you guys come along. And I'm like, look, man, we don't know. I let the dust settle, see what happens. I mean, look, if I'm someone who owns a company, the priority is making sure that the fighters, we talk with them, we get them settled in. That's our product. Absolutely. And you know what I mean? So, I mean, and I think that's what they've done already. I've heard is that they've already reached out to all the champions. They're working on deals to get them flown in to the event coming up this weekend. And they want
I think Ariel Helwani made that as a suggestion.
Yeah, well, all the fighters will be there this weekend. So except for one. One's not going to be there that I know of right now, but the rest are all going to be there. So good for them. That's how you want to do it to start off. That's a good step in the right direction. Sure. You don't want to damage that bridge when you first get started. Don't start
burning bridges.
Yeah, don't start making things a little weird. But one of the champions can't make it right now. He's got something already booked, but yeah, the rest of them should all be there from what I understand. So good for them. That's a good step in the right direction. I think that's smart play. Get them there front row. Let them understand how special they are and how great they are. And I'm looking forward to that. So that's like one of the things. So the finances, no money changed hands. Paramount part owners in the PFL. So there is a small percentage owner of that. Does that diminish the brand of the Bellator? No, absolutely not. It doesn't, because look, the brand is the fighters. So that's it. When I look at what Bellator was, their fighters are still there. You've got the only fighter that right now, because his contract was up, was MVP. And so he will not be coming over in the trade, but all the other fighters will be coming over in the purchase. I said trade. Sorry about that, because I know how people like to use my words against me right now.
Not a trade.
So it wasn't a trade.
We're not going with a trade. No. We're going with an acquisition.
Yes. And so, they're just going to talk, like there's going to be a lot of talk and speculation of what Dana said, like why would anyone want to do it? Why would anyone want to buy it? There was that talk with Don Davis saying that, Dana doesn't really mention you or anything like that until you start to get on his radar.
Until he gets worried, he said.
Yeah, until he gets worried. I mean, there's a couple ways of looking at that.
No, there's truth in that to a point.
Okay. What do you think that truth is?
I think it's exactly the way it's a difference between words. You said, till you get on his radar. Mm-hmm. And Don Davis said, till he's worried. Mm-hmm. I don't think Dana's worried. He's been through this too many times. He's watched too many things. He's had the people that he hasn't liked as far as promotions. Look, Dana is good at what he does. Mm-hmm. Let's just be honest. How many times do I have to say it? He is the best promoter, fight promoter, I'm saying. There is. I can't go with a better one that's been more successful, mm-hmm. one that's made more money. Think of promoters, when you talk about fight promoters, you're talking about either in MMA or boxing. Mm-hmm. Can you name me a bigger or better promoter in boxing? No. Sorry, because it all comes down to numbers.
Yeah.
No, it comes down to numbers. Who has the most fighters under contract? Who makes the most money? All of those things. It's him. It's his company.
Yeah, but look,
the company that he works for.
I can look at it a couple different ways.
Okay.
The way that they did it, the way that that's what makes MMA so great. The way that the MMA cards are set up, you have to have a lot of fighters under contract, which allows you to make more money. So that's one way of looking at it. Whereas boxing promoters, they've got 10 guys, 15 guys under their levels. There's levels to this, obviously. They got more than that probably.
Yeah, they got more.
But they've got like 10 that make them a decent amount of money. That's it. So if I'm trying to compare the 10 boxers that they have that make them the money versus you've got 600, 700 fighters on your roster, it's not really a fair comparison. But that means that also, too, that he's handling a lot more shit going on because he's got all these fucking prima donnas, which is fighters, which I was one of them for a long time. We're all a little spoiled here and there.
Little prima donna.
Yeah, prima donnas. We get our panties in a bunch quite a bit.
Prima donna.
Yeah. We get our panties in a bunch a lot. Fighters are not easy to deal with.
No, because look, at the time when you're fighting, you're very self-centered.
You want it to be about
everything's
you.
About you.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's part of the fight game. It really is. And
combat sports is a very selfish sport.
It's absolutely, because it's not a team sport. It's team sports are different. They're oriented different. And the way your outlook is different. When it's just you, that's the person you have to, take care of. That's the person you got to get things right for is you. Mm-hmm. And so, it is self-centered to a point.
I look at the comments from Dana and then what Don Davis was talking about, and I say, he may be now you're kind of on his radar. Now, okay, look, now you've joined, you've merged, your top fighters and champions with now another organization who has top fighters and champions. several of them being in the top 3 or 4 right now, you know, in the world on other MMA websites rankings. So they are legit in the top 3 or 4. Some are even up there number 1.
Yeah.
That being said, but I think Dana also, when you hear some of his comments, let's be honest, he's been through this with the Pride acquisition when he bought Pride. He's been through this with other organizations. When Elite XC and Strikeforce, basically Elite XC went out of business and Strikeforce took over all their stuff. Okay. He's been through that during that time. And, you know, and then, you know, when Bellator was making some waves early on, he's probably getting sick and tired of answering these questions. Now with this merger here too, he's getting tired of it. Like it gets kind of annoying. Like, look, I've been the same UFC for however long. I've done my business and we continue to grow. We continue to get bigger. These guys now are merging 2 companies to try and compete. For him, it's like, okay, look, I've seen this. I've been there. I've done this. I've seen all this before. Let's see what happens.
Yeah,
that's where he's at.
Yeah, I agree. But, you know, like, do I think Dana's worried? No, I don't think he's worried. You know, there's nothing to worry for him.
Well, John, like, I think that's what I know what you're saying. But let me say this. I believe that there's so many things that still need to happen for Dana to even start thinking about being worried. Do you have the TV deals in the UK? If you're gonna move a TV deal in Saudi, like Don Davis said, are you gonna open that TV deal up in Africa? That's something to kind of be a little worried about. Going into Africa there.
Yes, because it can close things off for your company.
Yes, exactly. Going places that UFC hasn't gone.
You don't have a foothold there.
You don't have a foothold there. So that kind of, and just so people that understand, South Africa has a really good MMA market, a really big one. And there's a lot to be done there. But I think they've got to kind of lock down where you've got to know somebody to be able to do a promotion there. It's not easy there. Trevor Prangley fought down there in whatever the biggest promotion is now. Down there, he was one of their first, big time main fights, and PFC? I think it was PFC. So he fought the EFC. Okay, so he fought in that. I think he fought a guy named Rico Hatton. I think is what he was. And Trevor lost his belt. He lost his UFC deal because of that. Ooh. Yeah, and then they were able to bring him back, I believe, after that, and so on and so forth. Whatever it was, I think it was something along those lines. Anyways, and but it just like that's a foothold that the UFC doesn't have right now. If PFL can get in there before the UFC does, that's a big deal. That is a big deal. But like I said, Dana right now is like, look, they're saying all these things and they're making waves. They've got the media for this week. They're owning the media this week. That's fine.
He owns 51 other weeks.
But until we see how they put all their blocks together, I don't think he's worried right now. No, there's a lot of ways to go, man. There's a long ways to go. Even when UFC took all the Strikeforce fighters in, it took a while for the dust to settle and get these guys going, get guys getting fights that meant something. It took a while, and then finally after about probably 6-7 months, something like that, it finally started making sense. Okay, now this guy's this level. Now we get to see. Because some fighters got brought in and were fighting guys that were not on their level. They were smashing some of the UFC guys. And then some guys that were doing well in Strikeforce came in and were getting smashed by other guys. Because I don't know if you remember Pat Healy when he beat Jim Miller. It shocked the world. Yeah. That was one of those fights. Everyone was like, Jim Miller's going to fucking out wrestle him. Jim Miller's going to outstrike him. Jim Miller's going to submit him. No. I said, man, until you fight a guy that's 195 pounds when he walks in there, you don't know. You don't know.
Pat was big and could wrestle his ass off.
He could wrestle. He had a gas tank, and he was
just tough.
Just had that gangly-ness that hung on you. You're like, get off me, man. Ugh. That was one of my.
I always looked at Pat. He was like a second coming of John Fitch.
Yeah,
very similar.
Yeah.
Very similar, just bigger.
A little bit better striking than John. That was a little dig, but
man.
But John had better wrestling. Okay, but then it says, okay, cross promotion fights, champions versus champions in February.
That's great if it could happen, but they kind of backtracked a little bit on that. because he said that the PFL's season, after they have their November 24th this week, they have their pay-per-view and their championship fights, but then their season starts again in April. And that's something I think that's going to have to change over the course of time, where you have that big of a gap between November, we'll say 24th, and we'll say April 24th. And I'm not saying that's what it was going to be, but that's a lot of months that you're off of the radar. You can't have that anymore.
Well, it's not even so much. It's not even so much off the radar, John. You just acquired 214 fighters.
Well, that's why it's got to change. That's why it's going to change. Because he said that the PFL is going to be in April, and then he said Bellator's first show March.
Yeah.
What happened to the February?
Yeah.
So somewhere in there was, and that's just a miscommunication.
Yeah.
That's, what are you going to do?
But okay, so look, the cross
I
promotion.
think the idea of the champion versus champion is great, but the problem is you can only do that with 7 weight classes?
No, 5.
Based upon
5.
They don't have a 135 and they don't have a 185.
Yeah, that's 5 weight classes. There's 7 total, and there's only 5 that they have champions for.
Well, there's more than 7 weight classes.
No, I know, but this. Well, no, really? Well, there is.
You want me to start naming them?
No, but the ones that have champions, like in Bellator, there's 7.
Okay, in Bellator there's 7, but in the PFL
only has 5.
5. Okay,
yes.
That's my problem. So you got 5 fights.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. You got 5 fights, which kind of sucks because 2 of our most successful champions are 135 and 185.
And 185.
That's why I was I was kind of caught off that Errol didn't ask him, like, well, are you going to add the weight classes?
Yeah.
That would have been my bat. Like, okay, are we going to?
You have to.
You have 2 of the best guys in the world. Are you going to add that weight class? Because look, let's not be mistaken. You put Johnny Eblin in. You got Gegard still with him. You've got other guys that are Fabian Edwards. You've got these guys.
Fabian Edwards. You got Gegard, and then you got Dalton Rasta.
Yeah.
You got Aaron Jeffries,
Austin Vanderford.
Austin Vanderford. So that you got a great 185.
But you've also got guys in the PFL that are probably like, I'm tired of cutting this weight to 70.
Absolutely. Or I'm too small for 205. I want to go down to 185. Okay. I'm going to Paul Craig it. That's great.
Excuse me, guys. I mean, you've got Sada Boussi. I don't know. He seems like a really tall, kind of long, lanky guy. He could potentially go up to 85. He's staying at 70.
He's kind of like Page. He's got that build that he's very long
Jason
and lanky,
Jackson.
He makes the weight. Jason Jackson.
Like a Jason Jackson. Got it.
Yep.
Got it.
And I think, dude, if you put Sadabu and Jason Jackson together, that's a great fight. Great fight. They match up incredibly well.
Sign me up for that. I'll take that.
Yeah.
So the cross promotion stuff, I liked what he said when he was talking about Anthony Pettis. And it just the PFL format's not for older fighters.
No, it's not for him. Yeah.
Where it's for is for the younger guys. I totally agree. It's for the younger guys. This is where I want to say, John, this might be a page out of your book that maybe Don Davis needs to reach into your back pocket and pull it out and go, hey, this should be an entrance into the bigger show. Whatever show that is that you decide to call it, use all your young fighters to fight into the big show. You guys, instead of making it $1 million for all weight classes, make it $100,000.
$100,000.
Yeah, I mean, even if it was $250, I would say $100. I would say $100. Yeah, I would say $100,000, and then also a 6-fight deal. If you win the tournament, you get in. Now you're in the PFL main time or the big time, or you're Bellator, whatever it is they decide to do.
PFL Prime.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever. And
so then now those fighters that are young that can fight 4 times, 5 times in fucking 6 months. Which that's horrible. It sounds just horrible. It sounds horrible. No break. But yeah, with $1 million on the line, that's different. But young fighters can get away with that. And if you make $100,000 plus a 6-fight deal, and the 6-fight deal can be worth some decent money, I think that's a good stepping stone to get themselves in there. I think that you came up with that idea. I thought that was a bright idea. Brilliant. Very few come from you, but this is a good one.
Oh, there you go.
But it makes sense though. You take guys like Anthony Pettis. You take guys like Patricio Pitbull, that are 35, 36. And the lighter weight classes are harder for those fighters to compete.
Anybody who's over 35 years of age doing a tournament is tough on you.
Yep.
It's tough.
I mean, look at Kayla. Kayla's like, look, I just can't make this weight anymore at 155.
Don't blame her.
I'll fight the 145 if I only got to do it once or twice a year.
Twice a year.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Makes sense.
That's absolutely.
You know, I mean, I kind of think there would be maybe some potential to get even Chris Cyborg down to 145 once or twice a year. If you could, I think she could. I just don't know.
What? Hold it.
Oh, that's not 45. Was that 45? Not 45. Sorry. You're right. No, never mind. I was thinking, I don't know why I was thinking 55 with her. 45. No. She's already at 45. Yeah. My bad. Yeah. I don't know why I was thinking 35.
I don't know.
Anyways, okay. Brain fart. Sorry, guys. Apologize.
That was a bad time for Chris trying to get down.
Yeah. Let me ask you this though. Champions versus champions.
Yeah.
If y'all can't listen into this, you got to see my face. Got to go to YouTube and just hit the subscribe button and see my face.
Look, you got to be honest about the. And here's the difference. One of the things that the PFL and Don Davis got when they got Bellator is they got that roster of about 214. Is it 240? Okay, yeah. 214. Then Bellator lost.
Yeah, they did
because they were up around 280.
They had a lot of cuts the last
280. So if they're at 214, so they're at 214. So you got those 214. You were sitting somewhere between 60 to 70 fighters under contract with the PFL. Okay, great. Now you are at that position where you're close to 300 fighters. Mm-hmm. But there's no way and this is where it's the depth of the PFL can't compare to what Bellator is, just like the depth of Bellator couldn't compare to the UFC's depth. Mm-hmm. There's just too many fighters and too many places to go. And if you take a look at the championship, and I can only go off of, since they haven't had their championship fight this week yet, I can only go off of who is their champions in my mind based upon last year. So, OAM could end up being the champion again. He was the champion last year. Sadabusi could be the champion again this year. He was the champion last year. So you got to go with the people that were the champions last year. And you take a look and, I would say that OAM is going to have a seriously hard time with a number of the people that are the top lightweights in Bellator. Okay. Alexander Shabli is going to give him a hard time. Usman Nurmagomedov being the champion. He's out for 6 months, so that's why I'm not using him right at this moment. But Usman Nurmagomedov is going to give him fits. And it's just, just being honest. I love Clay Collard, who is fighting OAM. And both of those matchups a little bit different with Clay Collard because his boxing is damn good. But the kicking of Usman would give him fits. And the ability for Usman to wrestle him would give him some problems too. I just look at the lightweight. I just don't see whoever wins that. Mm-hmm. I don't see them winning in the lightweight.
Yeah, but I look at guys like you've got the guy Movlid.
Yeah, Movlid at 145.
Oh, him.
He's good.
I look at him.
Brendan Loughnane.
Him and Aaron Pico would be great. I think Patricio and Brendan Loughnane would be great. The reason why I say the Patricio and Brendan Loughnane because I know they're going to stand.
Yep.
Movlid's going to wrestle. Well, let's see him wrestle against Aaron Pico.
Yep.
Like let's make it let's see what it is. Stylistic matchup. I could put Movlid against Patricio and he may be able to take him down and control him. He may be able to do that.
See, but you could put and think about this. I mean, Ray Bradakupa, he's at 185 now. He's not at 170. Put him at 185.
Oh, because I had a fight for him.
Who is that?
Brennan Ward.
Brennan Ward and him would be a great fight.
I had a fight
that would
for
be
him.
A great fight. That's a good one.
I was like, I
like the way you're thinking.
Well, I was thinking Magomed Karamov versus Amosov. Great fight.
Absolutely.
That's great fight. I feel like that would be a first fight in. Sadabusi and Jason Jackson.
Yes.
Great fight.
Absolutely.
Great fight.
Yeah. But I think if you could move Bradakupa up to
85.
185, yeah, you got some people there to go against. Him, Dalton Rasta would be a fun fight with Cooper.
Yep.
You want to say Johnny Eblen, put Johnny Eblen against. Since Ray has won the PFL's championship, put him against Eblen.
Yeah, I think. Well, I think. Oh, that's at 85. Sorry, that's at 85. I get
at 185.
Yeah, I get it. That's at 85.
And then they also, they've got Derek Brunson.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
He signed with the PFL at 185.
Yeah. That's true. 85. I mean, Derek Brunson to me. Who would I like to see him fight? Him and maybe Fabian Edwards. Because Fabian's got a problem with guys that can wrestle. And Brunson can wrestle. But on the feet, Fabian's the slicker fighter. They come down to like a contrast of styles. I mean, but I also think that Brunson and Dalton Ross would be a fun fight.
It would.
They would be.
Good.
That'd be a good fight. There's so many fights that we can sit up here and try to make, but I just look at right now the champions versus champions. I mean,
you're not seeing the PFL winning a lot.
I'm not seeing them winning a lot, and it's no look. I'm not taking a dig at them. Look, their fighters they have good fighters in there.
Yes, we've named a number of them.
Yeah, but a lot of fighters that are on their roster, it's hard to compete consistently in that short period of time. So, and some of the fighters, they probably don't want to go to the PFL because I don't want to do that. I don't want to make weight 4 times in 6 months. That's hard. You don't realize how hard that is and how taxing it is on your body to do what these fighters are doing.
It's going from camp to camp to camp. You always seems like you're in camp. Yeah. And that wears on you.
Look at Kayla. Kayla's won it I don't know how many times. She's like, look, I've had enough. I've collected $5 million plus whatever else. I'm done. It's exhausting. And that's why you got to tip your hat to people like her, because she's been able to do it consecutively for so long. Came up short against Larissa Pacheco, but it's that constant having to do. Look, Bubba Jenkins, I think, has been in the finals, in the semifinals or the finals in the last 4 or 5 of them. Guys constantly just right there at the top. So
same with Chris Wade.
Yeah, exactly. Chris Wade always at the top too. So those two are fighting again coming up right on this card.
Is it on this card?
Yeah,
really?
Right there at the very bottom, number 3.
Yep. They are
look, I'm looking at this card. Let's go. I'm real quick. I want to just come over it, but I don't want to. No. Stop. Let's just talk about. I don't want to talk about the fights. I just want to say. I just want to say which fights I like.
All right, go.
Okay. I love the Chris Wade and Bubba Jenkins fight. Love that fight. Okay. I'm going to scoot up. And because we just talked about it, Ray Cooper III and Derek Brunson. Love that fight.
I love it.
Love that fight. I'm loving the, the Mohakhnatina, because she fought in Bellator also.
Marina.
Mohakhnatina and Larissa Pacheco. I'm loving that fight also. Should be a good fight. Larissa should put some pressure and maybe some good striking. The Aspen Lad is a last minute replacement coming in to fight not Julie Budd, but Kayla Harrison.
Kayla. Julia Budd.
I am into the Magomed Karamov and Sadabusi, because this fight right here with Karamov, I look at him and I'm like, he is the kryptonite for someone like a Sadabusi. He can wrestle.
Yeah, can be. But he's also got stand up.
He's got good striking. Yeah, so good there. This fight right here to me is probably going to be the best fight on the card. Is Gabriel Braga versus Pinedo. Might be the best fight on the card.
Pinedo is, man, he's really he's come out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just be honest, man. He is a tough sumbitch. I enjoy watching him. I think you're right. I think that fight between Braga and him is going to be special. I think it's a good one.
Great fight.
But I got to tell you, I actually like the heavyweight matchup they have with Goltsov against Ferreira. I think, Ferreira is 6'8". He's athletic, and Goltsov we're
not breaking the fights down. Stop breaking the fights down.
I'm not. He's just kind of boxing centric, but he's going to be standing there in front of Ferreira. I think it's going to be that's actually a good matchup.
Good. All right, look, we're going to get back into this PFL breakdown, PFL Bellator, the Don Davis interview. Says Bellator running an international series with Bellator champs able to defend. PFL continues tournament series or season that Bellator fighters can join. Potential for someone to enter tournament and also fight for Bellator title. Double champ, then cross, and then potentially cross to Ryzen for a belt. That's a question mark, by the way. So I don't know where the Ryzen situation is, so I don't want to touch on that. That whole relationship was built by Scott Coker, and we're still I think they're still trying to figure out whether Scott's coming over.
I think you've got to look and say that Don Davis has said that he has talked to Scott Coker and he wants him to stay with it. So he's in that position of saying, well, if Scott Coker stays with it, he has this relationship with Saki Kabara, and we would like to continue doing those type of cross promotional things. And I think that's a great thing because he's saying that he wants to cross promote by bringing John Jones against Francis Ngannou. I know that one's never going to happen, but hey, it's great that you have someone who is willing to still do those things and cross promote. Yeah, he's willing to do them. I like that.
I agree. And then in terms of double champ status, I mean, I think what you're going to run into is a lot of the fighters that are getting a little bit older, they're not going to want to do the PFL tournament. Even though there's $1 million on the line, they're not going to want to do the PFL tournament. And a lot of fighters that are already in the PFL that have been doing the tournaments, that tournament,
they're going to want out.
They're going to want out, or they're going to want to, if they're going to want to stay in, this tournament's going to get a lot harder.
Yeah.
It's going to get a lot harder.
Yeah. So dude, just the numbers tell you, it just increased in its difficulty.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So, and the fights are going to get a lot more violent.
Well, he did talk about the fact that, right now the PFL doesn't allow elbows until the finals. Finals, you're allowed to do elbows, but their tournament doesn't allow elbows all the way up. And, that's the same thing Bellator did long ago when they had their tournaments and stuff. You can't because you got fighters that, you can't have them getting cut the same way. And, it's a possibility that you get cut with the elbows. So it makes sense. Strikeforce had that where there was no elbows.
I loved it.
Yeah, I know.
I love that there was no elbows.
It's actually horrible, but.
No, it's not.
Yes,
it actually creates more action.
Yeah. Ask Mike Kyle.
It just creates more action.
No. Really? Ask Mike Kyle.
Well, if Mike Kyle actually knew how to fucking punch. What? Okay. That's why. The fuck. Hey, I know Mike Kyle very well. Used to hold mitts for him.
Just hold on. If you punch the head of Bigfoot
Silva,
you break your hands too.
It's the greatest thing. Punches.
He broke both of his hands, and then starts trying to headbutt on the chest. I said, "Hey, Mike, can't do that." He goes, "John, my hands are broken. What else can I do?" I said, "I don't know, dude."
Dude, use your. I don't even know.
I'm like, it's horrible.
I did. Okay, so let's go back through that. It says series with Bellator champs able to defend. That's going to be the UK series, over there in the UK. Yeah. So PFL continues tournament season that Bellator fighters can join. You're going to have a lot of those Bellator fighters that believe that they can win it. I'll give you an example. Sure. Alexander Shabley right now is like, for sure I can win this lightweight tournament. Yeah. Usman's probably thinking, for sure I can win this tournament. Go over there and make my $1 million. If I can continue to just do this over and over and over again, I'll be a multimillionaire 3-4 years. You know what I mean? So, and all the sponsors that will come with it, everything. The difference, not the difference, but like in the PFL, they're going to be still wearing their outfits, which they made that clear.
Yeah.
And Bellator will be able to continue on with their sponsors.
Yeah.
So I think those fighters that realize they may not be able to win the tournament, they may bounce and go to Bellator and be like, look, at least I can make some money with my sponsorships.
Yeah, whichever way they go, I thought he was really clear in the fact that he looks at the PFL. It's a league, and leagues have uniforms. He goes, the NBA has uniforms. The NFL has uniforms. That is the PFL. It's a league. Bellator is a one-off, meaning that each event is just one more. It's not like it's leading towards something. And so he says, with that, yes, you can wear whatever you want to wear. I thought that was good. It's a smart thing because, again, options for fighters that you can give them options. And he's willing, obviously with Francis, it shows they're willing to allow fighters to continue to do different things, continue to box. And that's part of your way of getting certain fighters over to your platform is give them more options than the industry leader, if you want to call him in the UFC, the big number one, is willing to do, because they're not willing to give those things. They're not going to let you box. They're not going to let you have to ask to do a grappling tournament. You got to ask for their permission.
And that grappling tournament normally has to be on the UFC Fight Pass.
Yes, it does. But okay.
The fighters, when they go from PFL to Bellator or Bellator to PFL, is it a separate contract, or do they honor the amount of money they're supposed to make in one organization or the other?
No, they're going to honor it. Look, they're under. Josh, who are they under contract to?
I understand.
They're under contract.
But it's a question to be asked, though.
To John. The company that is the The one who owns them, that's the PFL. So they can bounce back and forth. And I think that's a good thing for the fighters.
I understand. I think that is a good thing for the fighters. But does their money change going from one promotion to the next?
I don't believe so.
That's a question to be answered.
Yeah, I don't think it will, because when you have a contract and you have it signed for, so many fights, you can look at that contract, and this is my second fight on that contract, and this is what I'm supposed to make. Okay. Now the big thing that you can't do is sit there and go, oh, this is what I'm supposed to make, and then look and say, but I'm going to fight him. I want more money.
Well, I looked at it like I think it depends on, let's just say the TV deals in Bellator are making more than the TV deal that PFL is going to be on. Well, now I have more opportunity to pay you more over there because that one gets you paid more. That company makes more. The TV deal makes more.
It is the question, if you're looking and you're saying, if you're the PFL right now, they're they're still in talks, and he talked about it. They're still in talks with now ESPN, and he said that all that information is going to be coming out shortly. Do you want to put all of your products, because he's talking about 32 events, 32 shows throughout the variety of different, PFL Challenger Series, PFL's, tournament series, the Bellator, all these different, things, PFL Europe. Do you want to put them all under one provider, one platform, or is it better for you to have multiple platforms? Look at the UFC is right now not quite on multiple platforms. They're on, I guess you could say, 2 with their pay-per-view and their ESPN Plus selections. But, they've been on multiple platforms before. Look at the NFL. How many platforms is the NFL on?
I have no idea, John.
They got to be on, the ESPN, CBS, NBC. I mean, all these different, Fox. So sometimes being on multiple platforms is going to work better for you, and you're going to end up making more money based upon the fact that you can ask for a certain amount based upon the product of what you want. They're the ones that are going to be in charge of it, but it might be that they don't want to have everything on one.
Yeah, I think UFC right now, right? They do occasionally they do a one-off on ABC.
There you go.
While they're still doing the ESPN show or UFC.
Because ESPN is owned by Disney, and who's owned with ABC is owned by them too.
What they're doing is they're trying to steal some of their casual watchers that people don't really pay attention to, like the sports. Oh shit, what's on ABC? Why is this even on here? Oh, well, you know what? I can watch this also on ESPN. Maybe I'll start following it if there's someone there you've attached yourself to. Kayla Harrison re-signing. I would imagine she is. She finally got what she wanted. She wanted Chris Cyborg. That fight is available to her now. Makes sense for her to resign. But she'll be resigning for, let's say, 3 to 4 fights, whatever it is. But it's because she doesn't have to make that weight in a tournament style format.
Yeah.
She's gonna have the 1 fight, 2 fights a year, get time with her kids, and her family. Enjoy her life. She's a multimillionaire now. She's won the tournament so many damn times. So she's going to enjoy that time. So Cyborg under long-term deal. I believe that she is. I believe she has.
Just signed.
Yeah, I believe she just signed with
right? Bellator. Yes.
Yeah.
She's fought 1 fight.
Yeah.
Under that contract.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that deal was done. I know they were working on it right before the boxing fight that she had last time.
Yep.
But I believe that they got it done. Yes. So that makes sense. And it makes sense. Like, you got it re-signed. Like, you bought Bellator. That was part of what you wanted. That's the fight that everyone was talking about previously before, to this whole purchase. That was the fight everyone wanted to see. Scott Coker was in to do it. Don Davis was in to do it. There's fights there. There's so many fights for the fans to see and pay attention to. I got to keep going back to this though, John, is the 135 and the 185. You got to add these weight classes.
They will.
They got to.
They will.
You have most exciting.
Hold on. Let's be honest. Stop right now. They just acquired Bellator. Everybody that's on that 135, guess what? They have them now.
I get that.
And Bellator has a pretty goddamn good 135 pound weight class. At one time they didn't, but they do now.
They do now.
They got some studs. And at 185, it's getting better all the time. And Johnny Eblin being as good as he is, you're going to want to surround him with talent.
It was so weird, though, that it wasn't brought up. Like, you know what? We're going to look to start that, in the tournament style format. Like, it just, I felt like that was one of those things, just knowing that Patchy Mix is number 2 now on the MMA fighting rankings. But on their overall, I think he's number 1 outside of the champ. I think in Sean O'Malley. So they have him as number 2 or number 1, whatever it is. It goes champ, then number 1, number 2, whatever it is. You have him. You've got Magomed. This weight class is stacked in Bellator, the 135-pound division. And it caught me off guard. There was no like, oh, you know what? But we are going to add these. Yeah, like you would think the excitement would be there to say, but we're going to add this to the tournament, or we're working on figuring out how to add them into the tournament format.
But think about this. If you're Don Davis and you don't have any of those fighters, you don't have one in the PFL right now that you can talk about, what are you going to do? You got to sit there and say, we're going to work on that. Okay. And he doesn't know Patchy Mix from Magomedov. He doesn't know any of these guys, and that's okay. It's not his job to know them, but he will. And he's going to enjoy them, and he's going to see
these guys are good.
These guys can do. So,
Sergio, Magomed, Stotts,
absolutely.
Sabatello.
He's going to love.
He's going to love him. I feel like just from the interview I saw with Ariel, Don Davis is going to love Sabatello.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's see. 32 events across 5 franchises in 2024. More opportunities or more confusion?
All depending on how they do it. Yeah. Let's just be honest. Here's the real problem right now. And I think it's a problem for, Bellator's had it. How many times did you have people reaching out saying, Josh, how do I see this fight? And you had no answer for them.
Well, that's because we had so many distributors. Like we were on so many different networks.
Exactly. Exactly. But you had no answer for them. And it's the same thing that right now the PFL has kind of got that problem with their PFL Europe, because they had, the fight in Paris. It was a fight that actually sold tickets. You had Cedric Doumbé in the main event, who he's a stud, and he's someone people want to see. And if you were in the US, you couldn't see it. You had to be able to know how to steal it to kind of see that fight. So that's like anything. These are things that all have to be taken care of. Mm-hmm. But it's, the one thing that I'm going to sit there and put out now is, for how long have we said, the one thing I think the PFL really, their social media team really goes after things, and they're just putting stuff out all the time. We're doing this, we're doing that. And here's the difference maker. And people are going to blame Scott Coker for this. It was never Scott Coker's fault. If you're Scott Coker and you keep every show there, you're losing more money as far as what the owners of the product will put towards it. Okay, we're going to cut a little bit more. We're going to cut a little bit more. We're going to cut a little bit more. How many things got cut that you know of in all of our shows? It just kept going. Cut. Okay. I don't think you're going to see those things. And part of that is, he's thought, well, we want it brighter. We do more lights stuff. Yeah. All those things cost more money. And I think he's going to do them, and that's good for the show. At this point, Don Davis is excited. God bless him for being excited. I think it's awesome, because if there's one thing Bellator needs, it needs an owner who's excited about him. Does it not?
No, it does.
Yeah, because at least he is working towards making things better. Not, how do I cut? And that's, that's the difference between someone trying to grow a product and someone having a product that they don't know what to do with.
Well, I always look through the lens of a fighter kind of situation, just because coming from there is that anytime you say, and I want people to go back and think about this, the most fights that I had ever worked, basically working with Bellator, was 22 in 1 year. And then it only started getting
shows.
Yeah, shows, not fights.
Yeah, not
shows.
Fights.
Was 22. This, he comes out and says there's going to be 32 shows in 2024.
Yep. It's a lot.
Like, one of our biggest gripes with Bellator was that, how do you plan to make any leeway or gain any new fans if you're not doing 2 shows a month. If you want to try to get some of those fans, whether from the UFC or just new ones, you need to have more than 1 show, or 1 or 2 shows a month. Yeah. I mean, because
Maybe
that gap grows. Like what happens is if I do 1 in the beginning of the month and I don't do another one towards the middle of the next month, that's 5 weeks out. Like people forget about you. This day and age, with the way that social media is, the way that you can just pick up your phone and get everything you want right there on the phone. I can get online and go, you know what? I want some condoms sent to my room. Boom. There they are. They'll be there, and I can have same day delivery. I can have whatever I want. If I want to know how to build something, I can go on YouTube, and right away there's a video. It says, this is how you build this. I had to fix my heater the other day. Believe it or not, I had to do it, but
Did you do it?
I did. And I had to go on, I had to go on YouTube, and they said, hey, go through these first couple steps.
At least you were smart enough to go to YouTube.
Yeah. And so I went through YouTube and I go through these first couple steps, and bam, one of those steps worked. And that's where we were. So if anything you want it's available to you at any time. It's when you get to fights where you only have 1 fight a month, and then 5 weeks later, people are like, man, I forgot about that promotion. Forgot about that event. I forgot. Like, you have to continuously be pumping your next show. Constantly. Like, hey, if it's February 20th, well, guess what? That February 20th show, every other ad or every other commercial break or every ad between fights is look forward to, March 10th. Next show, March 10th. Next show, March 10th. Main event this, co-main event this. Pumping that next card. And so, sorry, I got an Amber Alert. Well, when your phone's turned off, it still gives you the Amber Alert. It'll turn your phone on. It does. Yes.
I know it does.
And so, yeah, that was our biggest gripe with Bellator, was that as they started cutting shows back, because we had 22 shows. I mean, that means 1 in January, then 2 every month, and then December, normally just 1 big show at the end of the year. Yep. And that's kind of how you did it. And occasionally they would have 2 shows in December and 1 show in August, because August is always a slow month, and just knowing the format of how promotions do it. I'm excited about the 32 shows. You have 200. Let's just say now you have 300, because PFL has, 60 to 70 fighters. Bellator has 214. You have about 300 fighters. You're going to need 32 shows to keep those fighters busy.
Yes, you are.
It's not easy, and so I'm looking forward to that. Now, the 5 franchise thing, John, give me your take on that.
I don't know how well it's going to work. I think they're going to have to conform a little bit, bring things in. You can have, you have your international series, make your international series, be it Bellator or be it PFL. It's all owned under the same umbrella. You can't have things spread out too much to where people don't know where to go for looking for the person that they want to see.
It's like having too many networks.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's, it's a fine, hey, we've been thinking about, we're going to do this. Okay. Now let's take a look at it a little closer. Is this exactly what's going to benefit us in the beginning, or should we let's start it off with just this, and then if we want to branch it off to another, okay. But it's always better to start off smaller and slower than it is to giant where we got this many and now we're going to start getting rid of them.
He did bring something up that I was actually kind of encouraged by. Was that, like, you have a PFL Saudi Arabia, PFL Africa, PFL South America, and then you have those little tournaments within that country. The winner of that now gets to fight in the PFL.
I like that.
I like that idea. I do.
It's great.
But that doesn't mean
the Challenger series.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that you have to air those fights over there. It just gives you the content you need to talk about those fighters that are coming up. Yeah. I mean, maybe you air that fight, the finals of that fight, on one of your bigger shows, in the PFL.
Well, I mean, you can air those fights in that country.
Yeah, absolutely.
For people that are interested in it and stuff, but it's not something you can air everywhere.
Yeah, I get you.
But
no, I agree. Okay, it says Don wants Scott Coker to come over and manage Bellator. Uniforms will cover all brands. That was something that was not true. That's not true. We'll just cover the PFL brand, and then the fighters will be in Bellator will be allowed to still wear their individual
with sponsors.
Yeah, with sponsors. Coker coming over. It's what
Don't know.
For me. It's whatever, you know, if Scott and him can work it out. I mean, we'll see exactly how that all leads up. That's above our pay grade.
Look at the last thing. You know, well, and here's the truth. You know, Scott was at 301. You know, and you know, I always see him in the cage, and as he was leaving, he says, "John," and I said, "What's up, Scott?" He goes, "I'll call you." That was it. So, okay.
That's Scott. All right, let's go. Francis versus whom? Willing to do Jones fight, but knows Dana won't.
Exactly.
We got to stop with the Jones thing.
No, it's not there.
It's never going to be there.
So the question is, if you have Francis, who is it? You know, because look, there's a lot of talk that the UFC is really going after a heavyweight boxer.
Deontay Wilder.
Yeah, exactly. And why are they doing that?
I mean, he's got big name value. I mean, he's got big name value.
He does. Yeah. And he's not an MMA fighter.
Yeah. You get their fans to come over and now all of a sudden become hopefully become MMA fight fans.
Okay.
I have no interest in seeing him fight Ngannou right off the bat. I want to see him fight another stand-up guy, but in MMA, but someone who is not known for his wrestling. Not that Francis is, but we've seen that Francis can wrestle. He's got a lot better at his wrestling. Look at his Stipe fight. Look at his Stipe fight. Look at his Cyril Gane fight. He can wrestle.
Yeah. He
can wrestle probably a lot better than Deontay Wilder.
No. Not probably.
Yeah, well, you know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give
the truth is, Deontay Wilder is going to be a small heavyweight.
Yeah, absolutely. 214, right? 214, 220?
217, yeah. Because truthfully, what should Deontay Wilder fight at? Light heavyweight.
Yeah, he should.
You know?
Absolutely.
But it's the question of, if you're the PFL, I want Deontay Wilder to fight Ngannou. I want him in there big time. And so that's the guy I'm going to kind of go after. But that one's going to be kind of to the side because you don't know for sure going to get it, but I'm going to try it. But what do I have that's available to me? Well, I do have the two guys that are in my finals here. Okay, I've got Goltsov and I have Ferreira. So those are two. I also have, D'Elia, who was the tournament winner last year, but he didn't make it through this time. And that kind of takes some of the shine off of it. Then you got to go towards Bellator and say, okay, who in Bellator in the heavyweights do I think could be a good fight? Well, you got to look and say, is Ryan Bader a good fight for him? Okay. Well, he's the champion over at Bellator and he can wrestle, but no one wants to fight Francis as far as his power and stuff. And I understand if, Bader's going, it's not what I want right now. Okay. But you got to look and say, you got to find somebody to fight Francis so he fights in the PFL.
I got to be honest. It's got to be Ryan Bader.
Okay.
Sorry, man.
I would say.
I know Francis is not the champion there. I mean, first, you got to have Bader fight the champion of their tournament thing. That's first. Sorry. That's got to happen.
So?
Yeah. Okay. If you're going to have champion versus champion, you got to have that happen first.
Okay.
And then if Bader wins, then he's going to have to, he has to fight. He has to, he's got to fight Francis Ngannou. Yeah. Look, we can't, I obviously, I think people may know, I'm going to lean a little bit more towards the Bellator because that's where I came from. I'm not going to even speak for you, but we can't just pick and choose these fights. If you're the champ, this is what we're getting into.
No, here's the point. Okay. I'm saying that if I'm the PFL, I look at everything. I'm either going to put Francis against the winner in the tournament, or I'm going to put him against Ryan Bader. Those are my choices. Now, I can't make any of them fight Francis. I can only offer the fight. I can't tell them you have to take it.
Yeah, I get that. So, you can't make them fight him. Yeah, I get that point.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I'm saying.
Well, look, the Don Davis said, Francis, he said he'll either fight in the first quarter or the last quarter. It would make sense to have Ryan Bader fight the winner of the tournament in the first quarter and then fight Francis, Francis in the fourth quarter.
I agree.
For a great year-end show. Plus, Bader's getting older in age. So was Francis.
He's going to be Bader's going to be older than Francis.
Yeah, but we're not trying to. I mean, like we just talked about with Pettis, they're not trying to train, for 3 fights in a year. Give me the one fight against your tournament champion when you have the champions versus champions. It's smart, and let's see who comes out on top, and the winner of that will fight Francis in whenever, or if they want to fight, if they take the fight. I know people may be scared of it, but look, money talks. That's the name of the game, right? We're prize fighters. Go out there and make that money. All right, let me get into a couple more little things here. Dana only dismisses things that we're worried about. 30% of the this is what I did like this though. 30% of the rosters ranked in the top 25 in the world. They still own the top 5 in the world. Weekly shows will be better. We're not number 2. We're the co-leader. Let's break this down. 30% of the roster is ranked in the top 25 in the world.
Okay.
I mean, that's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive.
It is. It's good, but you're far behind the UFC as far as depth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You have certain people that can absolutely, and we've said this forever, that can absolutely, fight with anybody in the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
And again, really it's, who do you match them against? That's going to kind of tell you who's going to win, to a point, but the top, you're going to have to look and say overall that, who's ever doing the ranking, who do they have at number 1? They got Patchy Mix and Sean O'Malley at 135. You said Sean O'Malley is what? The champ.
Yeah.
Not one from another promotion is the champ. It's all the UFCs.
I think Johnny Eblen might be the champ.
Really?
I think so.
You're telling me that they have Johnny Eblen now ranked above Sean Strickland?
I think so.
Really?
I think. I could be wrong. I'd
like to see it.
I would like to see it too. Let me see if I can pull this up because this is going to bug me now because I felt like I saw it somewhere, but I could be completely wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Dun, dun, dun. Let me add. Let's see. Okay, so for middleweight.
Yep.
I can see why Dave does this shit.
Our rudder, it's gone.
But let's pick out some other guys. Who else would be in that top 3 or 4? Look, you've got obviously Chris Cyborg is going to be there. Kayla Harrison is going to be there. They're going to be in the top, but that weight class is no longer around.
Well, there's
UFC.
Hold on. First off, when Amanda Nunes retired, there's no 145. In the UFC. That's done. So the best 145 pound female fighter out there is between 2. Truthfully, it's not even between Kayla. Because Kayla is really a 155 pound fighter. She's the best 155 pound fighter if you want, or Larissa Pacheco is. But Larissa has been fighting at 145. Chris is fighting at 145. Those are your 2 that are going to be your best 145 pound fighters in the women's division. So yeah, they have that. But I was just talking about the men's divisions. I wasn't talking about women's.
Got it.
Overall, the women's divisions, they're kind of split here because PFL is going to have all the 145ers. UFC doesn't have any. 135, PFL doesn't have any. Bellator doesn't have any. 125, now you're talking the PFL now has 125ers that are from, Bellator, and the UFC's got some great 125ers. And it's a matter of, are they going to open up a 115 pound straw weight? They have some fighters there.
Yeah, they do. See, there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered, in these things. So I'm excited for these fighters. I'm not able to pull it up, and I'm actually horrible at searching the web. So
don't worry about it.
Well, here on, I think it's the ranking. Was it rankingmma.com? They've got Johnny at number 10.
They got him at number 10. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, they've got wow. I've got to look it up more, but I swear I thought I saw him as number 1 in one spot, but I could be wrong. Let me see this. This is going to bug me now. Let's see.
How about if you look at USA Today's rankings on them?
There we go. Let's see this one. Oh, Johnny Eblen for MMA fighting is number 5. Would you say USA Today?
Yeah, USA Today. Go ahead. You can just say MMA fight, but again, They have him at number 5.
Yeah.
And like I said, across the board, it's going to be UFC.
Which is so crazy because of how much hype he's been getting these days about him being potentially the best middleweight in the world.
Yeah.
You know, who knows? Let's see. There you go. God, it's so nice to have Dave.
all of a sudden, we are appreciating our podcast.
He's
Dave.
all right. Let's not get ahead.
We miss you, Dave.
This is we stuff. You go ahead and miss his ass. No. Where they got him at? Let's see here. Dun, dun, dun.
Just go across the board. So at 125, they're going to have. At 125, they've got to have Pantoja. At 135, they're going to have Sean O'Malley. At 145, they're going to have Volkanovski. At 155, they're going to have Makhachev.
Mm-hmm.
At 170, they're going to have Edwards. At 185, they're going to have Sean Strickland. At 205, it's now going to be Alex.
Mm-hmm.
And at heavyweight, it's going to be and maybe Aspinall, maybe John Jones mixed in there based upon whatever they're doing with
There's a lot of heat going on right now with that.
Well,
there's a lot of back and forth with all that.
Henry Cejudo's he's all in there, man. He's talking about it. He's blasting DC.
Oh man, I just got an update from Dave. They have to go straight to the ER. So,
oh my God,
I know, poor guy. So they went to urgent care. Urgent care is like, we're not touching that. So much for it being urgent.
Yep.
Yeah, I look at all this and I'm thinking to myself, there's so many things that are good here. 30% of the roster. I look at certain fighters. Look, I think Amosov is one of those guys, even though he just lost and he lost bad to Jason Jackson. Yep. Styles make matchups. But I put guys like him against someone like Leon Edwards, and I've trained with Leon. I got a lot of respect for Leon. I think he gives Leon a hard time. I think he gives Colby Covington a hard time. I think he gives Kamaru Usman a hard time. Jason Jackson trains with Kamaru Usman, trains with Gilbert Burns, trains with Shavkat, trains with Ian McGarry. Is it McGarry? Ian Gary. Ian Gary Machado. He trains with all of them. He knows where he's at. Tells us kind of he knows where he's at. And so I know that's a fighter's perspective, but that lets you know kind of where he's at in that mix. He's not saying it to boast. He's just saying like, look, I respect all these guys, but I know where I'm at.
Yeah.
I look at the 135 champ. Off the tip of my tongue.
Sean
O'Malley. No, but Patchy Mix.
Patchy.
You got Patchy, you got Sergio, you got Stotts, and you've got Sabatello. Those 4 guys right there.
You got Magomed.
You got Magomed. You got Juan Archuleta. Juan Archuleta's the rising champion.
That's right.
He's no slouch, man. The guy can fight. He can fight everywhere. He can wrestle and he can fight. I mean, it's a very dangerous weight. That to me is, like we've said this multiple times, that weight class is the most stacked weight class in the sport, hands down.
Yep.
And you get great fights every time they step in there. Absolute fantastic fights. I would match all those guys up, especially in those divisions. I put Johnny Edwards division, I put the welterweight division, and I put the bantamweight division. I'd put the Bellator ban all those divisions against the UFC division any day. I'd struggle a little bit more with the 145 pounders. I'd struggle a little bit more with the 155 pounders. And the only reason why I'd struggle a little bit with the 155 pounders is I wouldn't struggle too much. It just wouldn't be as deep. I'd give the top 3 or 4 guys, 4 guys, they would mix in there really well. But then you get past 4 and 5, it's just those guys too at the top 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those guys could give all the Bellator guys a run for their money, and
that's right.
Those other guys. Yeah. So it just makes for so many good fights that could potentially come about. But I also look at the guys at 155, right? So who's at 55 for the PFL?
Right now, you're looking at OAM is your top guy, and Clay Collard. Those are the 2 that are in the finals. And you had Sugar Shane Burroughs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Shane Burroughs was at 155. I think he's going to stay at 155 as far as I know.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to go back.
Burgos is he's a stud. He's a great fighter. Other than that, as far as top notch guys, they have the young kid Nishiyama, I want to say, from Japan. He's good, but he's too small.
Yeah, he's tiny.
Who else?
I mean, because you got Movlid, Bubba, Chris Wade. They're all at 45.
Those are 145.
45 pounders, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, there's fights to be had there, man. There's fights to be had there. So because Bubba came from Bellator, Bubba Jenkins, Chris Wade from the UFC, you know, and they've had some good battles back and forth. But I look at guys like Aaron Pico, Jeremy Kennedy. I mean, you've got Adam Boric. Let's not forget about him because he's been out for so long because he's been rehabbing his knee surgery. Yep. You got Mads Burnell, who's definitely a fantastic fighter. He got a shit end of the stick from the UFC. They kind of fucked him and burned him. So then he, you know, he's had a good little run in Bellator. He's had some ups and downs. You know,
but he's really come into his own as he can fight everywhere. And that's the thing about him.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that flavors up that whole 145-pound division in that tournament. And guys like him, I could see him going in there. I could see, you know, I could also see Aaron Pico going, I don't know if I want to do a tournament. I think I really just want to focus on I want to focus on, you know, doing this. Aaron Pico's very driven off of, I'm going to focus on one guy. I'm going to spend my time preparing for him. I'm going to make it happen. It's turn around 4 months later. I'm going to focus on one guy. I'm going to make this shit happen. I see that about him. Other guys like Mads Burnell, they train all the time. They don't I don't train for the opponent. I train for just me being me. I could see him going in there and fighting tournament style, having a chance to make that $1 million. Yeah. You know, I mean, Aaron Pico's contract's pretty fat though too. So
would not be a bad decision for Mads Burnell to actually go into the PFL tournament. Be a good thing.
There's guys I like to see in there. And let me see. It says they still weekly shows will be better. What does that mean?
I think them, you know, basically instead of it being where you got to figure the PFL was on like 14 shows, 14 shows a year. So at 32, you're getting closer to weekly shows. You know, you're talking about 3, you know, out of a month, you got 3 shows. So,
and then his last Don Davis' last comments were not last comments, but says we are not number 2. We're the co-leader.
Okay.
And let me just read you what Matt Brown said. If I go to Walmart and someone recognizes me and their brother asks who I am or their sister asks who I am, they'll say he's an ultimate fighter. They don't say he's an MMA fighter. He's an ultimate fighter. It's like a Kleenex or a Q-tip. It's not number 1 and a distant second place number 2. That's what it is. UFC is synonymous with cage fighting, period.
Okay.
You know,
is that true?
There is some truth to that.
Okay, how many people have called you a cage fighter?
Not a lot.
How many people have called you a UFC fighter?
A lot.
Okay, how many people have called you an MMA fighter? A lot.
It's middle of the road. But look, I guess, it used to be you were a UFC fighter. It has been changing lately to MMA fighter. As of recently, like I would say probably like right around COVID, it started turning into MMA fighter around that time. You know, maybe a little bit before that. Like, I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why. I don't know if it's because there was Bellator was coming around, PFL was coming around. Like, you know, I think one was starting to try to break into the. They were always talking about breaking into the U.S. market. I don't know why. But back when I was with the UFC before, even when I was with Strikeforce, people would say, "Oh, you're a UFC fighter, or you're an Ultimate Fighter." That's what they used to say. I've noticed now like when I fly, and people will get this all the time when they travel. We run into people all the time. Your ears, for me, it's my ears. Are you an MMA fighter? Before it used to be a UFC fighter. Are you a UFC fighter? Are you a cage fighter? Did you know, like, where do you compete?
The one thing that Matt Brown said was the whole Q-tip or Kleenex. Mm-hmm. And that's what the UFC worked towards. They wanted to be, we used to call it a Xerox. Mm-hmm. You know what a Xerox is? Mm-hmm. Okay. A Xerox was a company. but they were the first ones that you could take and put this picture in there, and it would run this paper through, and it would come up with a copy of that, right? It's a copy. What we call it, it's a Xerox. Okay. And that's marketing. That's beautiful marketing. And that's why instead of calling it a tissue, people will call it a Kleenex, because Kleenex is a brand, and they did a great job of marketing. And that's what the UFC did, is a great job of marketing overall, getting people to say that the sport was UFC. They've done a great job with that. You cannot sit there and deny it in any way or sit there and try to argue it. That's what their marketing team did. No, I give them credit for it.
I absolutely agree, because you got to remember, like in the beginning, it was, oh, do you play UFC? Like people used to say, like, you know,
I train UFC.
Yeah, I train UFC. Or like, do you play UFC? Do you train UFC? Like that's. They would see your ears. They would see the, you know, like you'd walk around your gi bottoms.
Well, in the beginning, it was, you know, you fight that no holds barred. You know, that was the beginning.
Okay, that's you
fight no. You're part of no holds barred.
A little before my time.
NHB, you know, and that's. But again, that was the beginning, and then when Zuffa took over, they really put it into their marketing plan of, hey, we want to be the Kleenex of the sport. And they did. Yeah. You know, and for Matt Brown to sit there and say, of course he's going to say it, you know, and that's, I'm not saying he's lying. I agree with him to a point, but he's also biased towards a company that he has been, you know, with for a long time. And I don't blame him. They've treated him good. He's been good for them. He's put on great fights. You know, he wants to say, yeah, dude, I fight for the number one. And he's right. He did. You know, he did. And so it's,
I'm not discrediting what he's saying. I'm simply saying that it used to be, I train UFC. I you know, do you play UFC? And that's what people would ask us on planes. I see your ears. Are you train that UFC? You know, like, and that's how it was. But I have noticed lately
it's switching over a little
that it is switching over to MMA. Because people are becoming more knowledgeable in what it's called.
That's right.
It's not just called UFC now. And people are now saying like, oh, I have a buddy who trains jiu-jitsu. You know, he's done some MMA fights. It's not in the UFC. It's like, and they'll tell me he's not in the UFC, but you know, he's fought MMA. And I'm like, oh wow, like this is a conversation I can talk to. You know, I can have a conversation with you about it.
I'll actually speak back.
Yeah, you know, it's like it's so the fans are becoming the average everyday Joe Blow is becoming more knowledgeable about what the sport is and what the promotions are and where the fighters are fighting and what they're good at. Oh, yeah, he's a really good Muay Thai guy, or oh, he does boxing / kickboxing. Like they can have a conversation. Oh, he's jiu-jitsu, he's wrestling. He wrestled in college in Iowa, and you know, now he's in the, you know, now he trains and now he's fighting MMA.
I think it all comes down to this though. And you know, and I love the fact that Don Davis is trying to, you know, right away, hey, no, we're the co-leader. Because if you think about it, you know, John Anik and Brendan Fitzgerald and I don't know if the other guy from England does it the same, but they always say
Brendan, right?
No, the Brendan Fitzgerald.
Okay.
And I want to say Cooper, but I could be wrong about the English guy. But they both say that whole thing of, you know, the leader in combat sports and things like that. And they always say it. And it's like, well, okay, they're the leader as far as a promotion in MMA, you know, and it takes more than just saying that you're the co-leader. You got to prove you're the co-leader.
Yeah.
That's by putting on fights that people want to see. That's by selling out arenas. And these are all the things the PFL is going to have to do. Look, Bellator did a good job of. Bellator put a lot of butts in the seats, and that was Scott Coker. He liked, you know, he was big into, you know, he didn't give tickets away and stuff like that. The PFL's whole system was set up differently. They were worried about the TV, same as in the beginning, when, you know, the people don't even talk about it anymore with Semaphore Entertainment Group, SEG, and WOW. They didn't care about the audience. They got an audience, but they cared about TV. They made it. They didn't do anything for the people that paid for tickets and came. It was like, you know, they were an afterthought. But after a while it was, oh no, we need to make this a special thing when you come and make it exciting for people and make it to where they want to come back. And that's one of the things that, Bellator's done a good job. They went back sometimes too many times, in my opinion, to the same place. You got to make it special. Once a year, you go someplace. Mm-hmm. Make it to where those people there have a great time and they want to come back the next time you're coming. That UFC's been great at that. Except now that they do the Apex, they wreck that.
Yeah. If you want to be the co-leader, you've got to start showing me profits.
Okay.
That goes for any promotion. Any promotion. You can't selling out seats and having the best fighters on your rosters. That's all. I think that's fantastic.
That's all part of it.
That's all part of it. But
it's all part of it.
You've got to start showing me a profit. I think that's, if anyone wants to argue with like, hey, or just try to pitch an argument with someone like, well, this is what the UFC makes. Now, I'm not saying you need to make what the UFC is making. That takes time. It's 30 years.
I don't look at it that you have to make a profit at all to be the co-leader. No, because it's what you make is important to you as the person owning it, but the product you put out and the fighters that you have and how they can compete with this other entity, that's what says if you're the co-leader.
But John, if you're not around in 4 or 5 years, then you're not a co-leader. It doesn't matter. That's what my point is. My point is, can my fighters compete with theirs?
Hold it.
Absolutely.
So hold on. So the UFC makes, we'll say, $400 to $500 million a year in profit. That's what they're doing. Somewhere in there. Okay. And you, as another promotion, put on just as good of fights. You have just as good a roster. We'll say, I'm not saying that's the truth right now, but we'll say, just as good a roster. You sold out arenas and have same butts in the seats.
Okay.
But you don't make $400 to $500 million. You make $50 million.
No. You didn't. You see, you're changing my words. I said,
I'm not changing your words.
Yes. I didn't say you had to make
a question. I asked you a question.
Well, I made it clear before when I said that comment. I said you don't need to make what they're making.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I just said you need to make a profit.
So you're making a profit.
Showing me that you're sustainable puts you as a co-leader. Okay. If you can show me that you're sustainable, then I automatically believe you're a co-leader, because then I believe, look, you're going to be around. Now you're going to threaten me for the title. Look, if a guy is fucking 0-12, I don't give a shit about you. You're never going to be fighting me for the title. Okay? Like, who the fuck are you? But if you start showing me you're fucking 9-1,
what happens when that 0-12 guy whips your ass?
First off, that 0-12 guy's never going to be in the cage with me. But the 9-1 guy, now I'm like, ooh, I'm keeping an eye on that guy. I'm keeping an eye on that, on that thing.
Well, see, but hold on. You're talking about the rear view mirror, and that's where the UFC's been at. Since Pride went down, let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Since Pride went down, the UFC has always been, they look in the rear view mirror because everyone's behind them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, John.
Doesn't mean anything.
No, I get it. I get what you're saying. It doesn't mean anything. But my thing is, co-leader to me means, and do they have the roster now with the merging of Kayla? Because I think Kayla can sell.
Getting there.
I think that's where I'm going with. Calm down, buddy. Okay. I'm on your team, by the way.
I don't know. I don't think you are.
I'm on your team.
We're going to talk now.
Kayla can sell. Cyborg can sell. I think with a little bit more marketing and stuff with Larissa Pacheco and Aspen Ladd and Marina Mohaknatina, like you did that pretty well. But you've got a group of female fighters that can be pushed a little bit. I also think you got with Juliana Velasquez. You've got, I know that she just lost was Sumiko Naba. You've got Denise Kilholtz. They attract that Hawaiian market. They attract that European market. There's some there, and I don't know what Alimale is doing. With what she's got going on. This Carmouche, she can attract the military market. They have followings for the female market to go ahead and start building something into this. They've got something. I know they do. Look, I thought Bellator had it. I thought Bellator had something. breaking that threshold though, and getting to that next part to be a co-leader, I believe they got it all. It's what we're going to see is how they put it together now that the deal has been done, and give it time. I've said this, I don't know how many times. This shit ain't, Rome wasn't built in one night. Okay. This is going to happen. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. And I think Don Davis knows that. I think all the guys that work for PFL, they fucking know this. There's going to be some curveballs that come in there, and they're going to roll with the punches and they're going to figure this out. My own personal experience, whether it was with Elite XC and Strike Force, or Strike and then Rumble in the Rock and Elite XC and Strike Force and UFC, is that you've got to have to eventually minimize how much shit you got going on to build what you have in front of you, which is fucking you got really good fighters right now. Yeah. And I hope that they end up doing what's best for those top level guys and females, because they're ready. They're ready right now to explode onto the scene and take over. I mean, I believe they are. And,
not a doubt about it.
So, all right. Well, look, I think we've talked this thing to nauseum.
I think we've killed that one.
We've killed this thing to nauseum. So we're going to go ahead and talk the PFL. PFL has got Clay Collard versus OAM.
Aubin Mercier.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it. I just say OAM. Just too much accent for me. Let's go. Tell me what you got.
Dude, I actually really like this fight. I think OAM has really come into his own. He's much better on the feet than he used to be, but he's not good enough on the feet to be on the feet too long with Clay Collard.
Yeah.
Clay Collard is an outstanding stand-up fighter. He's got a great body attack. He goes to the body as well as any fighter you will see in mixed martial arts. I don't care where he's at. He's tough as hell. He's on a mission. His weakness is guys that can take him down with wrestling. Mm-hmm. And that is something that OAM definitely has in his back pocket. He's a good wrestler. He's strong. He's physically strong. So Clay's got to be smart about how he attacks. He doesn't kick a lot. Clay doesn't kick a lot. OAM kind of kicks with, he likes to kick that low calf kick in the beginning. They'll do that a little bit, but he's going to get hit to the body when he does it. And the whole question is, how does Clay stop the takedown when OAM finally decides to do it? When he goes for it, does he get the stoppage and make him pay off of that stoppage of the takedown? Mm-hmm. Does he leave him something with, the idea of, oops, I can't do that again. That hurt.
Yeah.
I gotta try to adjust this a little bit. And I adjust it, and the second time, and I fail at that, and something else hits me. That's what Clay Collard has to do. Clay Collard is in that position in this fight. He's got to fight a pretty well, in my opinion, mistake-free fight. He's got to be really good with his offense as far as attacking the body and hitting OAM with shots that hurt him, and he needs to be defensively smart with his wrestling.
Yeah. Oh, not just wrestling. I think he's got to be defensively smart with his striking. OAM's got power.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
He's got power. He's shown it. Clay's got to keep his back off the fence. He can't afford to settle. If you get taken down, you can't just, okay, I'm just going to accept this position. No, man, you got to, as soon as that butt
right away, you got to
those hands hit the ground, you've got to, as he's taking you down, you got to get into that fetal position, hit your knees and your hands and bounce right back up to your feet. You can't afford to just settle down there at the bottom going, all right, fuck, this round's gone. Okay, I'm going to wait till the next round. Yep. That ain't going to work, man.
I agree.
Clay, I think, though, too, in the lockdown phone booth type position, I think he's got a good chance of touching OAM and making him fight scared. OAM doesn't like to be hit.
No, and you want to make him, you got to turn him into a panic wrestler.
Yeah. Yep. If he does that, I think he's got a good chance of winning. And I really like Clay Collard, so that should be a good fight. All right, let's go next fight. This is the fight you're excited about.
I am. I think this is actually a really good fight. Goltsov is good.
I don't care about heavyweights. Let's move on. Next.
Throughout the season, he's looked good. He's got a freaking just a piston for a left jab. He uses it well. Obviously, Renan Ferreira is just a massive and very athletic 6'8" guy who's got power, but both of them have power. It's really the question of where does the fight take place? On the ground, you could look and say Goltsov is a better wrestler, And Ferreira's probably the better jiu-jitsu guy, but he's not going to be getting any submissions off of his back anytime soon, I don't think. So he's got to be in the top position. But it's a good title fight. I think this is going to be one that they're going to go after each other. Someone's going to go to sleep.
You got Pacheco versus Moaknaktina.
Yep. I'm being honest. I think Larissa Pacheco is just too much for her.
Yeah.
Too good overall. Too good in the stand-up. Too good on the ground. Marina is very good with her judo, and she's got a good submission game. But Larissa's going to be, good as far as defending against all of that. And when the fight gets back to the feet, Marina is always going to be in a position that she has got to worry about being on her feet too long.
We've called a couple of Marina's fights. She's used her judo and her wrestling maybe twice.
Yeah.
She just stays on the outside, kind of waits for you to overcommit, tries to land big shots. She's a very patient fighter. Larissa is the complete opposite.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm gonna walk you down. I'm gonna land big shots. If you hit me, I'm gonna hit you harder, and I'm gonna try to knock you the fuck out.
Yeah,
I would love, and I'm not trying to bypass Kayla Harrison and Chris Cyborg, but I'm really looking forward to the Larissa Pacheco and Chris Cyborg fight.
Absolutely, they're kind of.
I feel like that's the fight to make. To be honest,
they're two twins. Mm-hmm. The way they fight, I think at this moment, Chris is a little more polished. At this moment of their careers, but Larissa's damn good.
Yeah.
So,
Kayla Harrison versus Aspen Ladd.
I look at this as this is going to be a tough fight for Aspen Ladd. Aspen's good, but she starts slow. Kayla, when she gets to the top position, she usually does good work there. She's got a good submission game. Aspen's going to be carrying a lot of weight on the ground with Kayla on top of her. Kayla just continually moves to better positions and looks for the submissions, looks for the ground and pound, and just keeps on rolling. Once she's rolling, she's looking good. And Aspen, she's got to start a lot faster than she normally does in this fight.
I don't know how to approach this fight, John. Aspen Ladd, it's whichever one shows up. The one that fights or the one that doesn't. Like I just can't narrow her down, man. I've liked her one fight, and the next time I'm like, who the hell is this? Who is she?
She lets the rounds just go by. It's like, what are you doing?
What are you doing? What concerns me a little bit with Kayla is, Kayla, it's after that initial intense burst, in that first round, going into the second round, it starts to slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
And so this weight also is at 150. It's not at 155. So she's having to cut a little bit more weight than normal.
That's not a problem.
I don't think it's a problem either. I don't think it is either. But it does. I guess for me, it kind of just concern me a little bit because she has shown to slow down a little bit in that second round if things get a little bit more tough. And Aspen is someone who has been known to just kind of linger around. Like you said, she can be resilient. She can be resilient. She takes some shots, but she can just linger around. She's like the female that just like, I'm going to wait here and wait for things to develop. And then I'm going to try to be here in the end of the second, into the third round, and then start trying to put some pressure and start trying to make you fight uncomfortably. And then eventually see if I can get you to will and maybe just take over. She could try to do that. So this makes for a fun fight. I look at Kayla. I think that Kayla should walk away with this fight, but you don't know. Who knows? This is a really good fight. This fight's gonna be really
this is a really good fight. This is one of the fights you look and you go, that is a well matched fight. Either guy, Sadabusi is in that position. He's learned how to defensively keep himself on his feet.
Yeah.
Magomed Karamov he's just well rounded. He's got a good stand up game. He's got a good jab. He boxes well. He doesn't kick a ton, but his boxing is damn good and his wrestling is damn good. And in the top position, he's very heavy. I don't see, if he ends up on his back, he's got to look out for the ground and pound of Sadabu, but there's no submission threat there. Mm-hmm. So I see him getting back to his feet if he ends up there, but I don't think he really will.
Yeah.
It's going to end up on the feet. Who's the guy that's got the better techniques?
I don't know. I feel like Magomed Karamov could get him down and take him down.
Oh, he will. He will. But I think the big exchanges are going to be what you're going to want to see is they're going to be in the stand-up. The one thing about Magomed is he'll stay on his feet.
Yeah.
You know, he will stay on his feet, even at times when you look and you go, take him down. And he's like, nah, I'm comfortable here. And he just keeps on rolling. But against Sadabusi, he might have a good game plan of saying, when I get the opportunity, I'm going to take it to the ground every chance I get.
Yeah.
And that would not be a bad plan. The question is, how much gas does he burn in trying to get him down?
I guess what we have to remember, though, John, is that even though these are championship fights in the finals, they're all 3 rounds. They're not 5 rounds. They're not 5-round fights.
Yes, they are.
I don't think so, John. You
I
can't
think they
have.
are.
You can't have. No.
Say title fight. Now, Kayla and Aspen is not.
I don't.
All the other ones are 5-round fights.
I don't believe they are.
They are title fights. They don't have a choice.
I think their tournament titles are not 5 rounds.
5 rounds.
Are you sure?
100%. I'll tell you what. You just keep on talking right there.
John,
and while
one
you're
thing
talking,
I can do is I can fucking talk. Okay, let's go, John.
You just keep talking because we look at that and it's like, you always want to be right. So let's take a look at it and make sure that we are not screwing this up. As I look at it,
but anyways,
5 5s.
5
Here you go right here.
5 5s.
5 5s for every championship fight
in the PFL.
5 5s. 5 5s. 5 5s. 3 5s for Kayla Harrison and Aspen Ladd. 3 5s for Cooper and Brunson. But no, all of the title fights are 5 5s.
So that's 1, 2. That's 4. That's 5.
Oh no, it's 5. It's a lot.
That's a lot.
You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
This is a pay-per-view, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
$50, $49.99.
That was another thing I want to talk to you about. Is ESPN gets that price? That's what Don Davis said. They make the price.
They make the price.
That's interesting.
It's absolutely sad because I honestly think, and I could be wrong about this, and it's just my opinion, but if the PFL was able to say, we're going to put this on for $24.99, $25, even $29.99, you're going to get double what you're going to get at, it could be more, but double what you're going to get at that $50 price. And yes, it's the same amount of money, we'll say, if it's at $25, but it's more eyes.
Yeah.
And that's better for your product. You want more eyes on it. So I kind of look at that and I go, it's a shame that ESPN puts it I'm going to pay for it because I've got a podcast here that I want to have people to talk about these things. But other than that, I mean, you just look and you go, you're asking a lot, man. $50 is something where people go, can I get by without watching it? Yes. And I don't watch it when maybe I should.
Yeah. Interesting. All right, then you've got Gabriel Braga versus Jesus Pineda.
You know what kind of fight that's going to be.
This can be a great fight, man. These two guys are going to bang it out on the feet. I mean, Braga's undefeated, I believe, 12, 13-0, something like that.
Yep.
And he is gritty. Pineda is someone that can take a lot of shots and deliver the shots. He will be there still in the 4th and the 5th round.
He's proven himself to be a tough fighter.
Yeah.
He's good. I know he came up out of the PFL's Challenger Series and then, came into and he's put everybody away. And you look and you go, hats off to you, brother.
Yeah.
You are a hell of a fighter. It's tough.
I think the speed of Braga, though, is going to be a problem. The explosiveness, the speed of those, I think it's going to be a problem for Pineda. But I think if Pineda can survive that first 2 rounds, get into that 3rd, 4th, and 5th, he's been known to have good cardio, good prep. He can take a shot, deliver a shot. He'll still be there and put Braga on his back foot. He'll have a chance, I think, after round 2.
Yeah.
What other fights on this card did you want to talk about?
Well, you got Joshua Silveira, who is the son of Conan's Marcus Silveira from American Top Team. He is in the title fight against Impa. And I hate saying Impa's last name. Impa Kasanganai. Impa used to Kasanganai.
I can finally get one of these motherfuckers right.
There you go. Nice job.
Got it, because I remember saying it so many times when he fought Joaquin Buckley.
Yeah, when he got knocked out. Yeah. But Impa's good. He's athletic. He's fun to watch. I think Joshua's got the edge in this fight, though. Josh he's good everywhere. He's consistent. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes, and I think, in my opinion, he's the favorite in this fight.
Yeah, I agree. Ray Cooper and Derek Brunson.
I love that fight. Look, I like Ray Cooper. Throughout his career, he's just I hate saying he's the typical Hawaiian, but he's the typical Hawaiian.
Yeah.
Tough as hell. Just scrap. That's Ray Cooper. Let's just scrap. Let's just throw hands. Let's go. And that's the Hawaiian mentality. And that's what you kind of love about those guys and stuff. And he's talented. Now, the one thing that is a problem sometimes is he gets tired.
Yeah. But
he's fighting a guy. He's got a big problem in. He gets tired.
Tired.
It's actually, the wrestling goes to Derek, no doubt about it, even though Ray's not easy to take down. The stand-up overall is going to go to Cooper. He's got power in his hands, and he can put you away. The age definitely is a concern if you're, a fan of Derek Brunson. He's starting to get up a little bit to the top where, Ray is still fairly, in his fighting prime. So I think it's a great matchup. I think they're doing it for a reason. They think that Ray Cooper can beat him.
Okay. We're going to find out. Look, there's also Bubba Jenkins versus Chris Wade. We've seen this fight several times. Should be a good fight. It's always been a good fight. So tune in for that fight as well. And hey, we're looking forward to seeing how this thing all pans out after the weekend. And we're going to get the breakdowns. There's some news we want to get into as well. We obviously just heard that our man pulled out of his fight.
Yes. Dan Hooker is out of the fight against Bobby Green. That is that's too bad. I was looking forward to that fight. But there was some crap going on in that I didn't understand. There was some words going back, and I was like, Hooker was saying some things that was like, what are you doing? And then all of a sudden he was out of the fight.
John, that's just, it was so bad.
Thank you.
I don't know why or what.
What are you doing?
Yeah, it was a very strange. But I will send
again.
Sorry guys. I will send the photos because the photos are playing with the music is playing with the photos of Dan Hooker's arm. He has got a plate in his arm from a previous fight, and he must take another kick or something, but it shattered the bone behind the plate. So when I talk to people about, when they talk about the Conor McGregor, I've got titanium in my leg.
He's going to have a rod in his leg.
It's going to be unfair advantage. It fucking hurts.
Sucks.
It is so painful. I give this example all the time because when I fought Gilbert the first time, I just tore his body up with body kicks. The second fight, in between the first and the second, I broke my ankle and I had to have a plate put in. So I couldn't kick anymore. So my lead leg, I couldn't kick anymore. I couldn't kick the body because if the flexion of my foot was too much, the rod keeps your foot from flexing that much. So it puts pressure on the bone and it fucking sucks. I broke because I thought I could kick after I got the plate in. I broke my leg 3 more times after that, right above the plate.
Based upon the plate.
Yeah, the plate acts like a fulcrum.
There's the fulcrum, yeah.
Yeah, and so I broke it here, broke it again here, because it just calcifies even bigger and bigger as you go up. But eventually it just stopped breaking because the bone got thicker as you went up your leg. But it's still, towards the end of my career, I couldn't kick with that as much. I was still kick with it, but I couldn't kick with my foot because the flexion of my foot made it more painful. And if I ever kicked to your body, I had to make sure it was a clean shot to your ribs, because if I
can't hit that elbow,
if it hit your elbow, I would have fell to the ground crying.
Just cry. Moment. Just okay. Just fold up, go into the fetal position. Just start crying. The tears can come out.
Well, DC's got a plate in his forearm. And if you ever kicked him in the way he would block, he had to turn his palm out, so you'd kick the flat part or the fat part of his body,
which is not good.
Forearm, which wasn't good either. But if you ever kept it like this and you kicked him there on the plate, he would
I don't blame him.
Wimp out. He'd I shouldn't say wimp out, but he would whimper out of the ring like, this is horrible, just in pain. So it's very painful. But I guess, look, with Bobby Green, Let me look this up here. Bobby Green, what are you thinking as in terms of a replacement, though? I need a fight that's as action-packed as that. Give me someone. Who?
It's the problem of who do you put, because there's only so many guys that are going to take that fight.
Mm-hmm.
And because just to step in against Bobby is not a good thing, as far as if you haven't been training for someone that fights the way he does.
Yeah, it
creates a problem for you. So, they were talking about Sarukian, and I heard Bobby said, "No, that's not a good fight. I don't want that one," because he was training for a guy who was going to be in the stand up with him.
No, but Sarukian's fighting. He's fighting against Benil Dariush. As the main event, like in a week or two.
That's right. What am I thinking? No, but I swear to God, that was what I saw in the thing. I was like, that doesn't make sense.
What
you gotta bring in a striker. You gotta bring in someone.
Give me Max Holloway.
Max Holloway's not gonna do that.
I'm just saying.
He's not gonna. Why
I'd like to see that fight.
Holloway ever take that fight? That's crazy.
It would be a fun fight for us.
It would be a fun fight. It would be a very fun fight.
What about a Calvin Kattar?
Calvin's not. Calvin's 145er, dude. You keep on bringing up 145ers instead of 145.
Well, he's not going to want to fight. Like the 55 pounders are not going to be able to make weight by this weekend,
possibly,
or by next. Actually, next weekend. I believe it's next weekend. Not going to be able to make weight. That's one. Two is you got Moicano. You've got
that would
Turner.
Be the guy that Moicano would be the one that I would think,
and they don't like each other.
Would want to take that fight,
and they don't like each other, I believe.
Yeah.
Moicano and Bobby Green. But I think Bobby would want to train for him specifically because he doesn't like him. He'd want to have but like Bobby, when we had Bobby on the podcast, he's like, I just train for for what I do, which is smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hooker was number 9. Faziev is out.
Yeah, Faziev's hurt.
I could see somebody like a Gamrot.
That would be exactly what you don't want.
You don't want for Bobby. I get it. If you're Bobby, you don't want that fight.
If you're Bobby, you're saying, no, I've trained for a guy that's a stand-up guy, and you want to put a wrestler against me.
It
doesn't make sense.
I couldn't tell you. Look, I would say like a Max Holloway only because Max doesn't want to have to make 45. That's one. He can get a fight in, make some good money. Bobby Green's tailor-made. Not it's an easy fight, but it's tailor-made as in like, he's going to stand. He's not going to try to wrestle me. You know what I mean? Like, all I have to worry about is just having the output. And Max seems like he's always fucking training. He's got a gas tank. It's only 3 rounds, not a 5-round fight. Max normally he's used to going 5 rounds. He's been going 5 rounds, pretty much his last 6 years or whatever. So, I mean, that to me would be a fun fight, be a great fan fight favorite. Fight fan favorite, yeah. I was trying to put the words together.
I mean, if you're looking at it that way, I think Giga Chikadze would be one that would be fun.
Ooh, yeah, there you go. I'll take the Giga fight. Yep. That makes for fun. Can I ask you this?
You can ask me.
I saw somebody post about how the UFC's what do they call it when you lose the bag? What's it called?
Fumble the bag?
Yeah, fumble the bag. They're fumbling the bag on one of the most exciting fighters in UFC right now, which is Michael Chandler. And I wanted to kind of say, like, it's not the UFC that's fumbling the bag. No. It's Michael Chandler who's waiting for that fight, which I feel like he's waiting for no reason.
I think he's not waiting for it, no reason. I totally understand why Michael is looking at this the way he is.
Uh-huh.
How many years ago was it that Connor came up with, oh baby, red penny night, let's go, It's the truth.
Yeah.
You get a lot of eyes. There's a lot of things that come with that fight. It's not just the fight against Connor. It's everything that goes with it. There is a bump in pay. There's all kinds of things that accelerate. And so I totally understand why Chandler wants that fight. Josh, how long has it been? I said, he's not going to get that fight. Even when they were coaching, I said, that fight's not going to happen. And there's reasons behind it. I don't get into those things as far as I don't say the things that I know or hear. I'm just saying Connor's in a position. He's not in a position to fight right now. and he's not going to be in a position to fight for a while. You know, there's a lot going on, and you take a look and you go, you know, and first it was, he was going to be, you know, December, and then okay, first quarter of, you know, 2024. Then it was second quarter. UFC 300. He's not going to be at UFC 300. Okay, so if you're Michael Chandler, you got to figure how long has it been since your last fight?
Yeah.
Well, you had your fight with Poirier. That was his last fight, right? And that was now, I think, over a year ago. Right at a year.
Yeah.
Wasn't it November?
Let me see when that fight was.
I can find out.
November 12th.
But, yeah, see?
Yep. November 12th.
So you're at a year, and you look and you go, man, you're 35 years of age. You can't let years go by without you having a fight. You know, your career is now walking away. And I think that he's going to have to make a decision somewhere along the way, you know, to either say, okay, hey, you guys got to give me a fight, or stay on your path and say, hey, it's got to be against Conor McGregor. But in the end, that doesn't mean it's going to be against Conor. Yeah.
I think he's holding on to it because obviously the red payday night, but he's already done all the work for it. He did you know, he spent time away from his family.
Look, so he did everything he was supposed to. And, you know, you look at the whole coaching thing, he did a great job. You know, there's certain guys that are good at coaching and certain guys that are not. You know, just because you can fight doesn't mean you're a good coach.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes some guys that are great fighters are the worst coaches you'll ever be around. You know, as far as it's not part of what they do. But Michael proved he was a good coach. He did great for his team. Everything doesn't matter. You've got a career that is basically, it's stalled, and it's stalled because you're looking for this fight. Is it worth it in the end? You know?
Well, I mean, you could look at it two ways. I could look at it also that his brain and his body needed some time off. This was probably a good thing for him.
Yeah. I'm not saying you're wrong about that.
That way. Like if you look at his last fight was against Dustin. Rough night. You know,
look at the one before that.
Well, no, that was Tony was before that.
Well, one before that was Justin.
It was Justin, yeah. You know, and then the one before that was Charles.
Yep.
Yeah, but then you had Dan Hooker before that. So you know, he had two losses, and then he had the win over Tony, and then he had lost to Dustin. I don't know. I look at like he is gonna have to make a decision here soon if he's gonna keep waiting for that fight. The second thing is I think this also might be a good thing for him to rest. You know, to let his body fully recover. Let's see. You know, get that fire and that motivation to get back in there. You know,
well, he's always training.
Yeah,
he is a training machine. You know, and so I agree with you as far as the brain. It's a good thing to give it a rest.
Yeah.
A year is plenty of time to rest.
That's true. This is true. All right. Well, let's see. Was there any other news that we wanted to talk about? We've kind of exhausted all of this stuff. We gave you guys pretty much a full 2-hour show. We're 8 minutes short, actually 7 minutes short of a 2-hour show for you guys. And I felt like we covered a lot of things. It was good.
Well, we did have that one thing off of Instagram that I wanted to put up there. It's fantastic.
What was it? Oh, I wish we could. I will. You know what?
No, you can't do it now.
I can't. Right? I can't show it to you. Oh, let's see.
No,
oh man, let me see if I can pull this bad boy up.
Can't do it.
Let's see.
It's awesome.
We got to do this though, but I can't do it, man. I can't do it. I don't want to show you guys, but man, that's crazy. All right, well, hey guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed this show, and it's been a pleasure filming. I mean, it's kind of weird not having Podcast Dave here. It's kind of a little weird. It's been a little weird. Yeah. So, hold on, I have to actually text him to say that
it's been a bumpy ride, but we survived. We got through it. We talked our asses off, I think.
Yep,
and most of it was mumble jumble.
But hey, we hopefully we gave you guys enough in-depth conversation about all this stuff, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And as John would say,
well, the last thing before we go, I want to say this because I got 8 minutes before it's 2 hours, so I'm just going to ramble on for 8 fucking minutes. Josh, the one thing I do want to say is for everyone that worked at Bellator and all those people, and I'm not talking about what's going to happen or anything like that. We did that little sign off, and there was all those people that, I was trying to remember, and I missed so many.
Oh yeah.
And I want to say, Stewie, you know who you are. Thank you for always putting our stuff up in the arenas, except for the last one. But I'm just going to put that on Amanda. But Stewie and Mike Sarno and all the people that I did not mention for everything. The people at Bellator were a family, and they were some of the nicest and best people who would give you the shirt off their back. And it was a joy working there. It was absolutely fun. And so for everyone that made it fun, and all the people we talked about before, the CCs and the Whitleys and the Lintons and the Sonleys and the Miguels, that you know who you are and all the things you did. Lynn, you are the sweetest human being I think there is on the face of the earth. You're kind. Jamie, same thing, because I call them the Hammers.
Yeah.
But Jamie and Chris, all of them,